Lisa Canafil was stabbed to death. Her 18-year-old foster daughter is in custody tonight.
I can't see the Sabrina that I know being violent towards anyone, let alone what she did.
She would never have done this by herself.
1994, on the 27th of October, 4 days before Halloween, a little girl named Sabrina was born on the outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio. Fated with alcoholic and abusive parents, she became a child of the foster care system until Lisa Canafil, a social worker specializing in sexual abuse, took her under her wing. From then on, Sabrina had it all. 2 loving parents, 2 sisters, and a bright future ahead of her.
She was really nice, and I thought she could be a big sister figure for me.
She worked a lot in counseling, how to cope and how to manage with everything she was going through. She was going to class, getting good grades. I think Sabrina really was thriving in their home.
Or so she thought, since on August 6, 2014, Sabrina was put on trial for the murder of Lisa, her own foster mother.
You recognize this knife?
For over a year, Sabrina mingled well with the Canafils, especially with her sisters, Megan and Haley, even with Kevin, Megan's stepfather and Lisa's husband. But eventually, Kevin began spending more and more time alone with Sabrina, neglecting the rest of his family. Lisa tried to address this through text messages, but Kevin dismissed her concerns, insisting she was overreacting.
I started to notice that something wasn't right between Sabrina and Kevin.
Lisa being in the field of, working for the Job and Family Services in the sex division, I think she had a pretty good inkling on what was going on.
Sabrina had never experienced a stable family, a loving household, the sense of security, the sense of belonging. Kevin seemed to know how to prey on Sabrina's vulnerabilities.
Kevin Canafil is a sexual predator. He was no better than the people that sexually abused the kids that Lisa was trying to help.
With no way to prove her suspicions, Lisa began talking about divorcing Kevin and putting Sabrina back into foster care. But her husband insisted they wait for Sabrina to finish high school before letting her go. After every sexual encounter the two would have, he would talk about Lisa, twisting the narrative to make Sabrina believe that the only way for them to be together was to get rid of his wife permanently. In the meantime, Lisa became more strict towards her foster daughter, ensuring she stayed home to prevent Kevin from approaching her, but her safeguarding quickly escalated. For unknown reasons, Lisa isolated Sabrina from her sisters too, creating a very tense environment inside the house.
There were some tensions between Lisa and Sabrina, and then Sabrina and the minor child too, Megan.
It was all downhill from there. And I never knew that it could lead to this. As he was leaving for work, she gave him a hug and she whispered something to him.
From the corner of her eye, Megan noticed that Sabrina received an unusually high number of text messages over dinner and the rest of the evening. Even past bedtime, she could still hear her foster sister's phone buzzing from the next room. Suddenly, at 1 a.m., the sound stopped before a high-pitched shout pierced the silence.
I was hearing screaming, and I was like, what the hell is going on downstairs? So I walked down there, and Bree's stabbing my mother to death.
911 was an emergency. What's going on? Who had the knife?
My sister.
Okay, does she still have it?
You okay? What happened?
And this keeps going on for over 6 minutes. Megan's worst nightmare coming true.
I have trouble sleeping every night. I have flashbacks all the time, and that will never stop.
They called out to Sabrina and Lisa, but were met with only eerie silence. Eventually, after entering the first room past the stairs, the officers came face to face with Sabrina, covered in blood, knife in hand.
It was a very tense couple seconds. I could see blood on the blade. I can see blood on her. Immediately, we started screaming to drop the knife.
Sabrina looked straight at the officer for a couple of seconds, as if she was in a trance, before throwing away the knife and putting her hands up. Following Sabrina's arrest, she had to be taken to a hospital to treat the numerous stab wounds Lisa and Megan caused to her hands during the attack. After she was stabilized, police took her back to the station and immediately began her interview.
Our main goal when we first interviewed Sabrina was to get Sabrina to tell us exactly what happened. We caught her coming out of the room, so we knew she did it.
At the time, the police's only other lead was Kevin Knaefel, the victim's husband and Sabrina's foster father.
We're just trying to figure out what happened that night. You know, his wife was brutally murdered here. And you can feel free to talk. You still...
Slowly but surely, he manipulated Sabrina into believing that killing Lisa was her only option.
He wanted to get a divorce, but Haley, which is a 3-year-old daughter of his and her, was in the picture and she would get custody, and he didn't want that happening. He said, well, look, I'm gonna kill myself because I can't deal with this anymore. And so when he said that, it kind of triggered me. I was like, no, I don't want that to happen. That's what he manipulated me with. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it.
Why doesn't he kill her?
Because then Haley wouldn't have a father. He'd be out in prison. And basically, he convinced me that I wouldn't get caught.
I want to know why.
What do you recall?
Yesterday? I don't know.
For over an hour, Sabrina claimed she had no recollection of the events and was unaware of Lisa's passing. Her story was that she took too many ibuprofen, blacked out, and woke up in the hospital. But Parmiter, a veteran detective, knew the teenager was hiding something.
First thing she does is she has an itch on her forehead for no apparent reason.
Kowal and Parmiter were hesitant at first, since Sabrina could have easily invented everything. Yet, instead of demonstrating the usual behaviors associated with lying, Sabrina was now much more confident, assertive, and consistent in her account of the events. To back her claims, she even mentioned that someone else knew about the plot, her high school friend, Autumn Pavlik.
Myself and Chief Assistant Prosecutor knocked on her door, we introduced ourselves, and she says, I've been expecting you guys.
Were you surprised that he was also talking to you about that?
When he got on the phone, it became a reality. I'm like, okay, well, if I can talk her out of it, and if I can make it so where him manipulating her is no longer there, maybe it won't happen.
Since Kevin had already talked to Autumn about his plan, the police thought he might do so again if she confronted him, so they wired up the 17-year-old and sent her to meet Kevin. When she accused him of killing his wife and of having conspired with his foster daughter to do so, Kevin didn't deny her claims. He didn't even react at all.
If somebody's accusing you of being involved in something you know you're not involved, you would say something like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Armed with Sabrina and Autumn's testimonies, Parmiter didn't waste any more time.
I got an arrest warrant. We went to Kevin Knaeffel's house and we arrested him. I don't think he was surprised. It was kind of weird because he was sleeping up in Sabrina's room.
After his arrest, the police finally had Kevin to themselves, but it wouldn't last long.
I'm Parmiter. My contact. Nice to meet you. You doing, Kevin?
You told me you wanted to talk about his wife's work.
Correct.
That's the subject matter?
Yes. So, Kevin, do you know anything that was happening at the house the night before you left for work that night?
Well, hang on a second. We just talking about his wife's work. What's going on at the house the night before is not his wife's work.
We're just trying to figure out what happened that night. You know, his wife was brutally murdered here. Were you and Lisa in the process of going through a divorce?
Okay, now we're getting outside the scope. We're not going to get into, the relationship between Kevin and Lisa.
The police couldn't help but find this strange. Why wouldn't Kevin help them? Why was Michael so defensive with his client? But what really caught Parmiter off guard was Kevin and Michael's reaction when he brought Sabrina into the conversation. At the trial, 12 witnesses took the stand, from Sabrina's teachers and social workers to family and friends of the Knaefel. Each of them corroborated that he acted suspiciously after the murder, and many either knew or witnessed him acting suggestively with Sabrina. Even Kevin's best friend, David Strunk, testified against him. In a report he filled in the weeks after the murder, he explained that Kevin insisted on showing him some of Sabrina's suggestive modeling pictures and that he kept talking about visiting her in jail, just like Megan noticed.
He told me that he just wanted to let her know that he was still there for her. This was the person that had just killed his wife, and I was shocked that he would want to have any sort of contact with her.
Sorry will never be enough for the act that you did. The pain I go through every day knowing that my mom is not there to see me get married and have kids. You took that away from me.
Since Sabrina and Kevin's condemnation, Megan has grown up to become a strong and independent woman. She may never forgive her former sister, but instead, she turned her adversity into purpose by studying criminal law in college, hoping to someday bring justice and reparation to other survivors of violent crimes. Today, Megan continues to show a desire to help others, a trait she will forever share with her mother.
She just wanted to help people, make a difference.